바쁘신 와중에도 이렇게 자리를 빛내주신 내외빈분들께 진심으로 감사드립니다. 오늘 행사는 개회식과 축사, 강연, 패널 토론, 오픈 퀘스천 순으로 진행됩니다. 오픈 퀘스천이 끝나면 자유로운 네트워킹 시간이 준비되어 있으니까요. 음식과 와인을 곁들이면서 즐기실 수 있는 시간이니까 마지막까지 함께 자리해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 그럼 지금부터 파일코인 스토리지 프로바이더 미덕 2022 코리아를 시작하도록 하겠습니다. 힘찬 박수와 함께 출발하겠습니다. 먼저 주최 측에 대해 간략하게 소개해 드리겠습니다. 프로토콜랩사는 IPFS의 창시자인 후안 베넷이 설립한 회사입니다. 파일코인을 개발하며 분산형 저장 시스템 세계의 문을 활짝 열었습니다. 현재 미국의 스탠퍼드, 하버드, MIT, 구글, IBM 100여 명의 공학자들로 구성되어 있는데요. 공동 오픈소스 프로젝트를 통해 실제적이고 효과적인 스토리지 확장을 도모해 가고 있습니다. 오늘날 IPFS와 파일코인 기술은 사회 재반 분야에서 활약하며 그 지평을 넓혀가고 있습니다. 특히 데이터 보안이 중요한 분야에서 각광받고 있는데요. 파일코인은 웹 3.0으로의 전환에 있어서 핵심적인 역할을 할 것으로 주목되고 있습니다. 오늘 참 뜻깊은 자리죠. 프로토콜랩스와 파일코인 파운데이션에서 한국 지역의 ST와 교류하기 위해 마련한 미덕인데요. 팬데믹 이후 오프라인에서 개최되는 행사는 근본이 처음인 만큼 오늘 의미가 참 남다릅니다. 그런 만큼 오늘 이 핵심 인물들의 생생한 이야기들을 많이 들어보실 수 있을 텐데요. 최신 기술과 개발 상황에 관한 내용이 오갈 예정이니까요. 모든 순간 잘 경청해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 오늘 미덕을 통해 IPFS 생태계를 조명하고 많은 관심을 촉구하고자 합니다. 나아가 더 많은 SP들이 생겨서 생태계 저변이 확대되기를 소망합니다. 제 소망에 맞춰서 오늘 이렇게 많은 분들이 자리해 주셨는데요. 줌으로 실시간 스트리밍까지 되고 있다고 합니다. 그럼 오늘 참석해 주신 내빈을 소개해 드리겠습니다. 한국지역 공증인 블록체인 월드 참석하셨습니다. 또 한국지역 SP, 글로벌 유닛 A, 마인코더, 파일코인 코리아, TBCC, 태지솔루션 IDC, 맥스피아 ICT, IPFS 한국데이터센터, 보고에서 참석해 주셨습니다. 오늘 여러 기업에서도 자리를 빛내주셨는데요. 화웨이, 차이나 모바일 인터내셔널, 엑스퓨전, 시게이트, 구글 클라우드, 클레이튼, 유림 TS, 한국 디지털 경제 교류협회에서 참석해 주셨습니다. 마지막으로 파일코인과 IPF 기술에 깊은 관심을 보내주셨던 전국대학교 교수진 참석해 주셨습니다. 이 밖에도 많은 분들이 자리를 빛내주셨지만 시간 관계상 하나하나 모두 소개해드리지 못하는 점 양해 말씀드립니다. 내외빈 소개는 이것으로 마칩니다. 다음으로는 파일코인 파운데이션 클라라 창립 이사님을 모셔보겠습니다. 뜨거운 박수로 환영해 주시죠.
안녕하세요, Korea. It's so great to see all of you guys here. We know that we have over 400 incredible storage providers and growing here in Korea. So my name is Clara. I am the founding officer of the Filecoin Foundation. We are so thrilled to support community meetups like here. We have done meetups all around the world, but this is our biggest meetup yet in real life in Asia, actually. We have never done anything like this in Asia. And we first want to thank our incredible collaboration with Tencent for putting this for putting on this incredible event. Today is packed with a ton of talks from different people in the Filecoin ecosystem. You'll learn about data onboarding. You'll learn about how to become a storage provider if you're early stage here. And you will also learn about other things that we're building, like Filecoin Virtual Machine. And so I'm going to turn to Stefan from Protocol for some additional remarks.
안녕하세요. Thank you everyone for coming. Very happy to see so many people in the room today. And as Clara mentioned, we both were very excited to finally come to Seoul and meet the Korean ecosystem. I'm Stefan. I'm responsible for I'm the head of storage provider ecosystem. So every morning I wake up thinking about all of you, how I can help you. So hopefully today will be a good day for you to learn more about our strategy, what we're working on, and more importantly, we want to hear from you, your feedback, how we can do better and how we can help you build your business. So please reach out to us as well if you want to have a conversation with us. But very excited, and Filecoin fight going. Let's go.
I also wanted to say, meetups like this did not exist around a year and a half ago. We only started these kind of meetups actually virtually a year and a half ago. So it's incredible that all of you guys have come together today in person as a community to not only meet each other, but we know many of you guys may have met each other online in different ways. You guys may have watched videos or talked to each other, and we are just so thrilled that all of you guys have decided to come a long way into this very confusing building to find us today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you like it.
클라라 이사님과 창립 이사 세 분을 무대 위로 모셔서 이야기를 많이 들어봤습니다. 좋은 말씀 나눠주셔서 감사합니다. 네, 이로써 개회식을 모두 마치고 잠시 후 자리가 정돈되는 대로 강연을 시작하도록 하겠습니다. SP Strategy and Programs, SP 전략 및 프로그램을 주제로 말씀해 주실 스테판 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 뜨거운 박수로 환영해 주십시오.
Welcome again. So what I would like to do is give you a short overview on some of the new programs that we are building, and also our strategy and our direction that we're taking at Protocol-Labs and Filecoin Foundation. First and foremost, as most of you seen, the landscape has changed, and so just some backstory. I have 20 years of experience in selling storage into enterprise environments, and 15 years ago, I was working for an object storage startup competing against Amazon, who came out with an S3 or an object interface. In 2000, Amazon launched it in 2006. And at the time, most of the enterprises, most of the companies we talked to said people will never store their data in the cloud. Enterprises will never do this. And so look what happens. Today, cloud is like the standard way of storing the data. And so today, we're at the same position as we were 15 years ago when Amazon created the S3 interface. But today, it's going to be Filecoin. And so we are seeing right now a transition happening where decentralized storage is getting a ton more awareness. And thanks to, also like the success that you have helped to build, how you have helped to build the network, and the new customers that are now joining our network, we will be able to demonstrate to the world how useful and how important Filecoin is to all of us as we build out this network. So most of the data that is stored or created is not, most of the data that's being created is not stored. We all know this, right? So IDC came out with a prediction that there's going to be 3 times more data between 2020 and 25 being created, and 80% of that data is coming from enterprises. So that's where we need to go after. And so today, we support not just public data sets, but also private data sets. And I think that's very important. So one of our strategies is to accelerate the onboarding of enterprise data as a whole. Second, as I mentioned, the cloud is obviously a large solution, or is one of the largest storage stacks out there. And so for you as service providers or storage providers, what we're doing here today is not just building out Filecoin Storage Provider ecosystem. We're actually building the foundation for the next wave of service providers that will store data, compute data, and run applications either using smart contracts or just connections into other blockchains that are doing decentralized computing. And so today, cloud is being centralized. The current service providers in Web3, their margins are being squeezed by cloud providers, and so it's an opportunity for all of you to go after that market and start charging for the data that you protect for your end customers. So we did a recent survey, and we'll announce more of the information and data once the white paper has been written. But I wanted to give you 3 numbers so far that came out of the survey. So we did a survey with enterprise customers, and 90% of the enterprises are interested in a decentralized storage. That's amazing, right? So we interviewed more than 300 enterprise companies, and the reason is, because it's significantly cheaper and it offers at least similar performance. This is something we have to continue to work on through our CDN capabilities. But in the end, the demand, the interest is there. Second, 85% of respondents indicate their enterprises would benefit from increasing the number of geographical distributed locations. So you as a storage provider implementing Filecoin systems closer to the end customer is a huge benefit versus using centralized solutions that are only available in certain areas. And then 87% of the enterprises were at least somewhat concerned about public cloud provider lock-in. So as you all know, if you store data in a cloud environment, it's cheap to move data in. It's extremely expensive to move data out. We have talked to customers today that are spending millions of dollars to move their data back out of the cloud into another cloud. Here, this is again an opportunity to differentiate and demonstrate that Filecoin does not require necessarily egress costs. Of course, you as a storage provider can choose that. So why Filecoin? Obviously, most of you know this. I don't have to explain this, but this is some of the pitch that we continuously provide to our customers. Immutability is one of the number one reasons. Transparent, decentralized, gives you economies of scale, ability to access the data from multiple locations or anywhere in the world through the CID, data locality close to the customer, durability, the fact that you can store multiple copies in an open format, and cost, of course, which allows us to go after all those data sets today that are either not stored or that are currently stored on another storage medium. So what's our mission, right? Our mission for the storage provider ecosystem is to build the platform for decentralized web by building a network of enterprise-grade Web3 storage providers and treating them like gold. Right? Our goal is for you, for us to help you as much as we can, and we do that through the ecosystem. As I mentioned before, or yesterday, we don't necessarily want to build a 1,000-person company. We rather invest in companies, in the ecosystem, in teams that create tooling and applications than hiring more people within Protocol Labs or Cloud Foundation. Because we know that if we invest in the ecosystem, the whole ecosystem will benefit from it. So what are our goals for next quarter and this quarter? These are a few. There's a ton more. But I just wanted to give you an update on the left side. Last quarter, we saw the total number of storage providers grow to 4,000 plus systems. We added 275 systems. We released and refined the Filecoin roadmap. We coordinated 3 in-person meetups. We created a new website, sp.filecoin.io. For any storage provider here, I recommend you to go to that website. That's where you will find all the information of new programs, content that we are creating. We launched 2 new enablement programs with Venus Hub and FSPN, and established storage provider working group in Singapore. Also, we have one in Korea, Asia, US, Europe, and we can add many more. What is our focus this quarter? We want to continue to enable all of you to store more deals. We are in the second phase of our master plan. The phase 1 was bringing capacity onto the network. We have now an enormous amount of capacity. Phase 2 is to bring data to the network and demonstrate to the world the utility of Filecoin. So today, you will hear from Angelo and a couple of other people from Protocol Labs on what the new programs are that we would recommend you to sign up for. Our goal is to build strong community, and we want to invest, now that we finally we're free to organize conferences in person again, to present and work with the Asia community and really build a strong community. So that's why this has been a very important event for us. Singapore is next, and we'll have another event in Singapore by the end of September. We also are building our own Twitter account, the newsletter. I'll talk about that in a second. And we also are refining sealing as a service option, so basically more tech capability in the software Lotus stack, so that you'll be able to provide or consume sealing as a service. So basically, if you don't have all the compute, you could then take advantage from someone else who has a lot of compute and use their services to seal your data. And of course, we want to onboard new programs, so we'd like to hear from you as well on what you think we need to implement in Korea to help the growth of the ecosystem here in Korea. This is an overview of the growth, and if you look at the different profiles, you'll see that the majority of our storage providers are within 1 to 10 petabytes of capacity, and that's a very healthy pipeline or healthy funnel. As you can see, the network is not only growing in total amount of systems, but also the systems that we see are increasing in capacity themselves. So the individual storage systems are growing as well, which is what we look at when we look at successful deployment of our ecosystem. Second, we will continue to, our focus is to continue to invest in East Asia and emerging markets. We are seeing a ton of growth, as I mentioned. Currently, officially, we're seeing around 10% of the miner IDs are based in Korea. Maybe, most of you are probably here in the room, or some of them are not, but our goal is to continue to invest in Asia through community meetups, collaboration from a marketing perspective, business development. If you have actual customers and you need help, please let us know. Here's some examples of signals that we look at. So we created a landing page, and I get the question like, hey, how is the ecosystem doing as a whole? when I'm in Europe, people are asking, how's the US doing? How's Asia doing? I can tell you that today, we get more than 100 requests a week of people that are interested in becoming a storage provider. So the demand, even though we're in a winter time frame and it's cold, not here, but unfortunately it's hard time and we understand that, we still see a ton of interest and growth overall, and that's very important. We're seeing demand in emerging markets like Africa, Saudi Arabia, we're seeing Latin America, which is great because the network is as strong as the adoption across the world, and so for us, it's important to have a truly decentralized network, and today we can say that our network is extremely decentralized, as none of these systems are run by the foundation of Protocol Labs. This is all you. So we're going to continue to provide more information to you as well through our Twitter accounts and our storage provider newsletter. So I recommend everyone to sign up for that because that's really important. The second most important thing for us right now, and this is where all the focus is on, is the total data that's uploaded to the network. So today we have seen an enormous amount of growth in the last 6 months, where at the end of December we were at 20 petabytes of data stored on the network. Today we're at 139, so I think this was a snapshot of yesterday. We are growing to at 1 petabyte of capacity of real data stored on a daily basis on our network. Our goal is to increase that to 5 petabytes of storage on a daily basis by the end of this year. Please help us in accomplishing that. And so we ask everyone to bring your customers to the network and tell us what tooling and support that you need for you to be successful. Stephen did a great presentation over the concept, and it's very well aligned with what our goals are, so thank you for that. So what are we tracking? So the number of storage providers that are taking deals today, and I think this is an important metric. As you know, I hope you know, we are extremely transparent. Every month, we do a public all hands, and most of you may not know this, but we promote it on YouTube, and you can actually see what our teams are working on, what my team is working on, the accomplishments we've made, and the highlights and the bottlenecks. So I recommend you to look at YouTube. I know we're all very busy, but one of our big important things is to be transparent in what we measure as well, and this is what we're measuring now. Today we have 4,000 miner IDs, and around 400, or actually I should say, around 700 are taking actual deals. So I've taken one deal, but only 400, which is 10%, is taking deals from 3 different clients. And so what we want to do is we want to increase the number of storage providers that are taking deals from multiple clients. And so today our programs that we'll present are here to promote and help you in getting to taking on more deals. And what it will take is to collaborate as a community, which means that, here there's multiple storage providers in the room. I encourage you to talk to each other, introduce yourself to each other, to build the relationships, because if you want to apply for Filecoin Plus, the data cap application process, you do have to store multiple copies with other storage providers. And so it's recommended for you to build those relationships so that you can trade your deals with each other. And that's currently what's happening across the globe. We see storage providers in Australia working together with storage providers in France and the Netherlands and San Diego. And I would love to see more Korean storage providers participate in that. We can help you with introductions, but it starts here. So I want to talk a couple of things. There's a lot going on, but I recommend everyone to go to sp.filecoin.io, make it your homepage. This is where we will post all of the new programs that we're working on. We also are looking at building more knowledge base articles and programs to be built with hardware vendors and so on. Follow us on Twitter and sign up for the newsletter. So every month we'll have like a newsletter coming out with very focused updates on storage provider related issues or items. Second, we also have built new lending programs with Dharma, CoinList, and Anchorage. If you want to leverage, they have 20% or less collateral requirements. So as you are looking for a pledge, you want to accelerate your growth, you can reach out to these vendors. They have built special Filecoin lending programs. In collaboration with our hardware vendors, one of our strategies is to continue to collaborate with the actual hardware vendors that you are so dependent on. So we work very closely with AMD, the head of blockchain, who, by the way, is running a Filecoin node. AMD is running Filecoin, Seagate is running Filecoin, which is amazing. We have the hardware manufacturers collaborating with us, and they're actually here in the room, some of them. And Seagate has actually built a special leasing program. They just released it in the US. It would be good to let them know that you're interested as well, or let me know. It's basically, it gives you the option to lease hardware instead of having to purchase and spend CapEx, you're spending OpEx, right? It reduces your risk as well. You can get it straight from the storage hardware manufacturer. We'll continue to collaborate with the hardware manufacturers to optimize the hardware for the ceiling and storage side. I'll let Angelo talk later today, but we've released some new programs. I would like to see hands. Anyone who signed up for Evergreen and Filecoin.io in the room? Anyone? No? Okay, then we'll listen to Angelo. I definitely recommend you. These are basically free deals. So if you want free deals today that will give you the 10x multiplier in token rewards, please sign up, get registered, and work with the other storage provider ecosystems that are taking free deals. Second, we have a new Slingshot program that Angelo will talk about as well. So this is version 3, which is where we pay Filecoin for people preparing the data before storing it into the network. These are public data sets, and there is a list of public data sets that you can choose from. Angelo will talk about how much you pay the storage provider ecosystem. And then we have our colleague Brooke, who's going to talk about Filegram. One of the things that we heard in the last year is that storage providers want a way to promote their business to other storage providers in the ecosystem. So Filegram lists all the miner IDs. You can go out there and claim your miner ID only if you can sign it with your key. And then you can add your logo, and you can add your information, your website, your contact information. So other storage providers can find you. So this is, look at it as the Yelp, or our goal is to create like an Airbnb style interface essentially with this. So customers can also find you, and then eventually, it becomes its own platform. So where do we go from here? There's a lot of other programs that we'll talk about today, but most importantly, today, as I mentioned, we are not just building a storage infrastructure anymore. We are building the foundation for decentralized data centers. And I think that's very important, is that as we start with storage, as I started off by saying, hey, 15 years ago, Amazon started off by saying, we're going to create this S3 bucket, cheap and deep, archive repository. Well, guess that's where we are today with Filecoin. And this is where we're going. A whole stack of services, a whole stack of capabilities that will become the next gen cloud infrastructure built by the community. And that's where we are driving our roadmaps. That's how we are focused very deeply on how we can get smart contracts out, and then decentralized compute, and then eventually build the bridges that are necessary with the other stacks to give you the full stack to provide storage services and compute services to your enterprise. So how to connect with us? Please don't forget. Reach us at Filecoin.Slack.com. We live and breathe on Slack. And I know that's not always easy. If Slack is not your thing, let me know. We can look at alternatives in Korea, but if you have a question, send us an email at storageproviders@Filecoin.ai, or go to our website and connect with us. We're here to help. We're a small team with a huge ecosystem. We do what we can, But we want to thank you, and I want to thank you personally for believing in our stack and supporting our network, because we want this to become a huge, we want this to become like life-changing, right, for all of us. And I know this is it's a long road, but we've made a tremendous amount of progress in just 2 years. And I want to thank you all for that. So thanks so much. One more question. So I want to introduce Ching. So Ching, come on stage. So Ching is actually, she works in our team from Protocol Labs, and she's here to help you from a business development perspective, because we realize that it's really hard to connect to Protocol Labs and the Filecoin Foundation. And so Ching, maybe you can introduce yourself, give a quick update on your background. Let me see. Oh, there you go.
There we go. 안녕하세요. Thank you. My name is Ching. I used to working for SP back then in Asia. So I knew the peak point, from all the SPs, how they want to grow and how they want to develop in the ecosystem. So I joined the PL and I want to help you guys. So my role is for SPs, who is interested, join Filecoin ecosystem. I'll help them to connecting to the resource you need and getting them on board. And second of all, if you already become an SP, we want to grow in that entire ecosystem. We want to onboarding real data, right? But I know there's a lot of information out there, a lot of programs you can join. It might be a little bit overwhelmed sometimes, but you can reach out to me always, and then I will help you to go through the process and link you to the right person to talk to, and then recommend you the right program to join as well. So we have a lot going on in the ecosystem, and later on we have a lot of projects coming up in the presentations, and we're going to dive in deep. But yeah, just a quick intro, and then happy to help you all, and then we really want to make the ecosystem grow together. Yeah, thank you.
네, 스탠바드 강연 잘 들으셨습니다. 경쟁력 있는 파일코인과 기업에서의 활용, 그리고 한국에서의 커뮤니티 형성을 독려해 주셨죠? 좋은 말씀 감사합니다. 다음으로는 Overview of the Filecoin Foundation, 파일코인 재단 개요를 주제로 말씀해 주실 클라라를 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 힘찬 박수 부탁드립니다.
Annyeonghaseyo again. It's so great to see all of you guys. So today I wanted to talk about the Filecoin Foundation. I know that it is confusing the ecosystem. There's a lot of different organizations involved. I just wanted to first start off by telling you guys the history of the Filecoin Foundation. Do I press this to slide? Are there slides? Oh. Okay, so first off, the history of the Filecoin Foundation is it was started as an idea in 2017 during the launch of the Filecoin white paper. It was said that the foundation is set up to help long-term governance of the Filecoin community. So we are the largest treasury holders of Filecoin. However, the Filecoin Foundation didn't really staff up until 2020, where myself, my co-founder Megan, and also our board chair Marta, we really started to hire a team and really think about what are the long-term needs to make sure that Filecoin can be used by everyone in the world, how we can ensure that people can have fair governance when they're participating, how we can make sure the network is secure, and also how we can really increase the participation of all of you guys here today as storage providers. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the work of the foundation. So today, the foundation is around 60 full-time employees all around the world, and we also support the ecosystem that is around 2,000 people from all across our network, right? From developers to you guys, all the way to startups that are building on our technology. And so over the last year, we've participated in a number of events, from hackathons, even here at ESOL. We had a builder event We had a metaverse night. Yesterday we had a K-pop event taking place. So we've engaged over 10,000 developers because we believe that we need as much technical talent to have the best tools for all of you guys to build on. We also have awarded over 140 developer grants. And so if you are technical, if you're a developer, even if you are a storage provider and you want better tooling, we have funded that. We fund 140 grants. That's nearly over 20 grants a month and more. And we're only accelerating that number as our community grows. I also wanted to talk a little bit about our startups. Who is building on our technology? Why is this so exciting? As you guys know, Filecoin is the main storage layer for Web3. Together with IPFS, we not only support Web2 client data from coming on board, but we're also trying to make sure that we can be on the cutting edge of what is happening in Web3. And so we have products like our friends at Audius, who are building a decentralized streaming platform for musicians. So they are using IPFS and Filecoin to think about music storage and making sure that musicians can have full ownership of their data. We also have tools like Huddle. Huddle is a decentralized video conference tool. It's used incredibly well in areas where there is low internet connectivity. And we also have Numbers. Numbers is actually a photo application. And so if you guys have ever seen photo manipulated, fake news, fake photos, Numbers actually uses our technology to make sure that we can authenticate where photos came from, and that we can prove that a photo came from the right source. And so you can store a number of video and photo products using Numbers. Slate is a user-friendly storage on the Filecoin network. So if you're familiar with Dropbox or Google Drive, think about Slate as that really easy-to-use solution, more client-facing, that you can use just for storage of your own data. And finally, Secure Finance. They were great partners yesterday in hosting the K-pop Day here in Korea. They are an integrated financial transaction platform, and they are really trying to build a lot of the DeFi capabilities onto our network. And so these are just a couple of examples of how our incredible set of startups are using our technology. And I also want to talk about how startups enter our ecosystem. So usually we have hackathons or events or developer grants, 240 developer grants I mentioned earlier, where developers are thinking about what to build. And then we also have a number of partnerships with accelerators, from Techstars to Longhash, a number of accelerators here in Asia, to graduate those startups. And then a lot of those companies actually go off on their own. They raise additional capital, but they're all using Filecoin technology as an underpinning layer. And so today we're looking at graduating around 100 companies by the end of this year. So Luke is actually going to speak after me talking about FEM, Filecoin Virtual Machine. This is a really exciting announcement because it brings DeFi capability on smart contracts using Filecoin technology. And so Filecoin Virtual Machine allows us to do things like cross-chain interoperability with projects like Ethereum, Solana, Near, anything you can imagine. And we can also think about an entire application suite of DeFi products that can now operate with Filecoin. So this is going to be huge. Our team has been hard at work to make sure that this can be the best experience possible, and also building out a number of DeFi partnerships. There we go, back. So this is a little bit about where the state of our network is as of this month. You can see here on the top, we have 18 exabytes of available total storage power. In fact, that is actually 1% of the entire storage capacity in the world right now. And if you remember, Filecoin has only been around for 22 months. So this is incredible that we, together as a community, cover nearly 1% of all total cloud storage, and we're only growing thanks to all of you guys here in this room. We have 4,065 storage providers all around the world. We're growing 29 storage providers a week. And we have programs like ESPA. We hope we can have similar programs here in Asia to help storage providers who are new to the community learn how to be a storage provider, how to grow, and how to also build your own business, right? Whether you're a small-sized entrepreneur or maybe store or existing data center that really wants to learn how to use Filecoin. We also are the leading storage provider for NFTs. In fact, if you own an NFT, a non-fungible token, you're likely already using IPFS and Filecoin. We have a tool called NFT.storage, I'll talk about next, but that has 80 million NFTs stored on it to this day, and we're growing by 2 million NFTs a week. So these are incredible numbers. We also have 5.7 million deals, 0.2 million each week, and also close to 140 petabytes of network storage utilized right now. So one of our big priorities this year is bringing clients to the table, from enterprise clients we heard about earlier, doing partnerships to make sure that we can have as many incredible clients stored on Filecoin. So today, I spoke about this just now. We have a product called NFT.storage. NFT.storage makes it really easy to store NFTs on Filecoin. We have a saying, not on IPFS, not your NFT. Today, if you remember, if you do not have anything like an NFT stored on Filecoin or IPFS, if the network goes down, people lose their NFTs, and NFTs can be worth a lot. You've probably heard of Bored Apes, a number of these projects where people are paying a lot of money for NFTs. So we really make sure that NFTs can stay resilient, and that the entire creator economy that's built on NFTs, we can be a cornerstone of that at the infrastructure level. I also wanted to talk about some of our work. We actually have two arms in the Filecoin Foundation. We have Filecoin Foundation and Filecoin Foundation for the Decentralized Web. FFDW is actually a 501c3 in the US, so we are a public charity, and we give grants to a number of groups that are doing really great charitable work, because we believe that we want to store humanity's most important information. So one of the nonprofit partners we funded is Starling Labs, based out of Stanford University. And through Starling, I want to talk about two use cases. Number one is we work with the US Shoah Foundation with Starling to upload 55,000 testimonials of Holocaust survivors, because we believe that today something like the Holocaust should never be forgotten. And the way that we make sure that those testimonials are permanent is by storing it on Filecoin. So we actually took those physical videos, some of them are very old, and we put all of that on Filecoin. Right now, another exciting partnership with Starling we're doing is making sure that what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, the war that is happening there, we can also make sure that those terrible things that are happening can be documented. So one day it can be used in international criminal court. Today, a lot of footage, people may not know where the source came from. We believe it's so important that we keep copies of this. And unfortunately, as we know, cloud storage is expensive. So a lot of these nonprofits, they cannot afford to store a lot of this critical information. So this is where our nonprofit arm, FFDW, we can give funding to make sure that important nonprofits that are really trying to document everything from human rights to war crimes, they can use our technology to do so. And that's a part that I'm very, very proud of. Another use case of Filecoin is actually in the public sector. And so actually last December, we partnered with New York City's Chief Technology Officer to think about the use of Filecoin in a pilot on open data. So imagine today, cities all around the world are thinking about this topic of open data. They want to make the data around the city more transparent for members of the community to understand. It could be water sanitation, it could be air pollution, it could be environmental data. However, when there is a government that might come into power that people don't trust, it's hard to think about whether that data might be manipulated. Right? Government might have a priority, and citizens deserve to have the authentic layer of the data that came from the source. So with New York City, we actually uploaded New York City's open data and preserved it so that today anyone in New York that wants, or even anyone in the world that wants to see data from New York City, they have the authentic source that came and was documented that doesn't belong to New York City but belongs to the people. And we're actually very excited to do a number of these partnerships, even more this year, with other governments around the world to really talk about not only data storage, but also the use case of data that is really authentic to citizens all around the world that deserve to have data transparency. So you can see here, this is a little bit about some of the work we did there.
And then finally, I wanted to talk about Internet Archive. I don't know if many of you guys are familiar with Internet Archive. They are a great nonprofit. They're based in San Francisco. And we actually gave Internet Archive funding of $10 million last year to make sure that they can help preserve humanity's most important information in the lab. So one thing that Internet Archive has been doing for years is every single day it scrapes the internet and it preserves a copy of a website. So if you have internet pages from 1998, you can still go up and use a tool called Wayback Machine to find that. And they store all of that data today. They are looking at using Filecoin and IPFS. We're helping them along to make sure that today, when we think about information on the internet, it is just as important as the way we think about preserving information in physical libraries. Today, we go to the library to find information. Unfortunately, today's internet is not fair. It's not democratic. There's a lot of advertising companies that pay money to have their data seem more important than others. And so we want to make sure that the public has access to important things like internet history. Even when startups fail, we have a copy of what was said in the startup on the net. And they are all using Filecoin right now as that storage layer to make sure that we can be that backbone for the internet past, but also the future internet moving forward. Also, I want to talk about the metaverse. So the metaverse is a really exciting area that we're heavily invested in. In fact, we'll hear from a few other people later this afternoon about some of the interesting partnerships there. Filecoin is actually right now the only storage solution that is built to scale with the metaverse. So we have a startup called Mona that has been doing a number of experiments with us to build different experiences and storing a lot of these virtual experiences on Filecoin. As you know, graphics, AR, VR, they take a lot of computational power to run. And so it's really exciting that we can also be on the cutting edge of being that storage solution for the exciting startups that are launching there. We also want to talk about governance. Many of you guys have been involved in participating in Filecoin improvement proposals. As you know, Filecoin is not owned by anyone. It really is an ecosystem where everyone should have fair participation. We run governance at the Filecoin Foundation, from programs like Filecoin Plus for data caps, all the way to the Filecoin improvement proposals. And we want to make sure that everyone in the community, regardless of where you're based, regardless of language barriers, can participate and weigh in on whether key decisions are important for the protocol. Even when we decided to rename miners to storage providers, that was a transparent Filecoin improvement proposal that was voted upon by all of you guys as a community. So we want to make sure that you guys here in Korea can participate as much as possible. And we have a lot of events happening in governance. We have a governance summit that we'll be hosting coming up that will be virtual, but we want to make sure that we can make it accessible for all of you guys here in this room in Korea, make sure we can translate it so all of you guys feel like you can participate and also be key decision makers for us when we have important changes in our technology. Last but not least, I got this question earlier. I wanted to tell you about Filecoin Green. Filecoin Green is a partnership we have with a number of groups, Protocol Labs and other players in the Filecoin ecosystem to make sure that we can be on track to be the most sustainable blockchain. And that doesn't mean just us. We also want to make sure that we can uplift other companies and we can uplift even others outside of Web3 to understand the potential of using blockchain to help save the environment. As you know, a lot of groups today are thinking about ESG, environmental standards. We recently just announced an ESG report at our Paris event, and we have sustainable blockchain summits happening all around the world where we talk about our work. We also have funded out of the foundation ways that all of you guys have been able to be more environmental in your day-to-day operations. So in Amsterdam, we have a storage provider, Decent, who wanted to experiment with running all of their data centers using solar panels. And we gave Decent a grant to be able to do that. And it's very incredible if you walk through it to see all the storage, to see all of the solar panels on the roof. We also have been involved in a number of funds to make sure that we can be as climate conscious and environmental as possible, including a crypto climate accord, which is an alliance between a number of crypto companies to make sure we are sustainable. So if you go to Filecoin Green's website, which we can share later on as a follow-up, you can learn about ways to get involved. It could be you speaking about how you're being environmental in your day-to-day practices. You can also apply for grants to think about tooling that makes it more transparent to not just the community, but also to governments or to the general public about the way that Filecoin is sustainable and how we're different from other cryptocurrencies that may not be as energy conscious. Great, and then last but not least, I don't think my slide is proceeding, but I wanted to share with you guys our next big event happening here in Asia. So like I said, this is actually our biggest gathering to date with all of you guys here for the storage provider community. We've never done anything like this in Asia, so you guys are ground zero. But actually, in a month and a half, we will have our biggest ecosystem conference in Asia called Filecoin Singapore. And we're going to have the most important players in all of Asia come together. And we have over 100 incredible speakers that we're announcing actually this week on our website. We have over 16 side events happening. So if there's a topic you're interested in that you want to deep dive on, there is a side event for that. We also have just all the community from our team, from other startups being involved. We will all be there. So as a special token of thanks, after you guys conclude today, we are going to give all of you guys free tickets to Filecoin Singapore if you can make it. We will be sharing that information out. We hope we can see all of you guys there. So with that, I wanted to wrap up, and I will stick around the end of today to answer questions.
네, 파일코인 재단의 창립이사 클라라 이사님의 강연이었습니다. 이 파일코인이 22개월 만에 전 세계 스토리지의 1%를 장악한 건 아주 주목할 만한 성과인 것 같습니다. ESG 경영에 따라서 공정하고 투명하게 지속 가능한 기업이 되겠다고 말씀해 주셨습니다. 웹사이트 공지도 말씀하신 대로 꼭 참고하시기 바랍니다. 다음으로 파일코인에 관해 말씀해 주실 버글 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 뜨거운 박수로 환영해 주십시오.
Okay, great. So yeah, this is for Singapore. Clara is going to distribute some coupons that you can use on Eventbrite and your transactions for them. What I'm going to talk today is Filecoin and the work that we were doing around abstracting away all the technology that we have built at Protocolab and creating a cloud that would be like the next iteration of the cloud. In a way, creating the Web3 cloud. My name is Luke. I am part of the Filecoin IPFS core team, also founder of Filecoin, which is the organization that is being incubated inside Protocolab. Before that, I worked a lot in the Ethereum ecosystem, spent most of my time building either protocols or development tools on top of protocols that have the entire ecosystem involved by building the infrastructure. So I first want to talk about the cloud and what the cloud actually is, so that we actually understand where we are with the current technology stack that we have built. At this essence, the cloud is just storage and compute. So basically, it's just a bunch of resources that you can use to do some computation and to actually store some data that was either taken as an input for that computation or is output of that computation. And that storage is basically just keeping track of the changes of data that are happening through the computation. In the Web2 realm, storage is based on massive NASes, and compute is enabled by VMs. So basically, any computing that happens today, whatever you do on your phone, is most likely going to land on a virtual machine, and that is going to run on infrastructure that is owned by AWS, Google, or all the other big tech companies. every product is built on top of that. So basically anything that you use on your phone is going to interact with some kind of virtual machine. Of course, that is all abstracted away for the users. It is also abstracted away for the developers that are actually building applications on top. So most of the people don't actually know how it works, and this is how it should be, because this is the infrastructure layer of computing that needs to be abstracted away for the developers building on top. So the developers that is actually building the use case should not worry at all about this. Should instead use something like Firebase or applications like databases on top that are being managed by some logic that is run on the cloud provider. Now, Web 2 in the past 70 years grew a lot, and it's still growing very fast. It is growing after 70 years, 30% year over year, which for something like such a big vertical string, like 30% year over year, and when we are talking about hundreds of billions, it's really fast. Now, there are some issues with the Web 2 cloud still, and those are issues that we're trying to tackle with the new technology stack that we have built. First of all, that the infrastructure is locking in. This is on multiple layers, from application layers to data that you're actually keeping on a particular cloud that you're not able to move to a different cloud because it is very hard to actually move stuff from different clouds. Also, at some point, the cloud providers figured out that this is a very good way for them to retain you. So like accuracy ingress cost is very expensive. So most of the developers are just trying not to get out of that cloud. We're seeing a bit of innovation when we're talking about hybrid cloud, but still this is very slow and it is not really showing that we as humanity are going in a direction where cloud is going to be open forever. Now, the issue is also that most of the developer tools were built by one organization, and that organization is keeping a monopoly on them. So, for example, Beanstalk or any machine learning product that is running on AWS, that is not open source. That is running as a product on AWS, and by default it's using resources that are provided by AWS. So what AWS is doing is they are selling you resources at the end of the day in the form of computing, but with a cost of 20 per DX, because they are giving you a little layer of tools. This is completely wrong, and we think that the Web3 will be changing. Of course, app plugins. Now, if I'm a developer that is building on something like Firebase, and I'm storing data on AWS, because of course, like the developer tools that AWS built are great for me, it's almost impossible for me to provide users the way to share data between different apps. So as a developer, I just use that data for my app, and I'm not able to share it with any other app. Because this is how the house was built, and for me as a developer, it's way too complicated to actually do it. And again, like developers that are building use cases should not be worrying about the infrastructure side. So they are not the ones deciding where they should or not store data on multiple clouds. That should be like given by default. Now there are many other issues that are like becoming more relevant recently, which is the legal structure, where most of the data is actually owned by one large government that is making decisions that are good just for them. And also, when we are talking about political instability that is recently like very relevant, what's happening is that like particular countries are able to cut off a country from the internet overnight, because most of the companies were using the cloud products that are provided by companies that are incorporated in those countries. And we can argue about geopolitical situations, but like at the end of the day, like no one should be left without the service, especially not without the data that they actually collected and actually stored. So like if I'm storing something on Facebook, no matter where I live, as a user I should be able to actually retrieve the data. That is not absolutely true, and it's getting worse. Yeah, of course, like the incentives are again non-aligned with the users. So at the end of the day, like AWS wants some more resources, and that's what's going to be happening, because they are a very large organization that has a lot of power to actually make that work. And of course, issues around like having governments that are able to actually have power. To put this in the Web 2 perspective, we need something like Firebase. We need something like managed database that is allowing the developers to have all those characteristics and retain the power of Web3, but without having all the complexity associated with the actual building within the environment. Now, there are also very interesting things like the fact that if data is replicated around the globe and encrypted, I can actually keep ownership over the data because I'm the one that is keeping the keys, and the data that is stored in multiple locations is not accessible by anyone else other than the site. Which also helps with preventing the fragmentation of the internet, which we are very close, because if you look at what's happening in the world right now, like we are very likely to see in the next 5 to 10 years one part of the internet either being severely blocked or being completely detached, which means that we would not be able to get particular data that is stored in those parts of the internet. So in Web3, how compute and storage works is that you have different networks that are abstracting away those resources and are being managed by a network. So if we want to make decisions that are good for the users at the end of the day, what we need to have is networks with particular governance in place that helps us make decisions together, rather than have one single big organization that is for profit that makes decisions just to increase the shareholder value, which is by increasing the profits that that organization makes. Now, the issue with networks is that they are very complex, and there is a lot of complexity that needs to be managed somehow. So currently those networks look something like this, where you have a bunch of networks that are running individually particular workloads. You could have on one side IPFS, on the other side Filecoin. You could have some computing networks, which is what you see in the center. But the issue is that all of those right now work kind of in silos. So you don't have miners that are actually running multiple networks and actually allowing computing to happen on the day. What you have right now is just miners running one particular thing. In fact, if you ask a miner what they do, they're going to tell you, I'm a Filecoin miner, I'm an Ethereum miner. They're not going to tell you, I'm a computing miner or I'm a storage miner. So the issue again is that if you have storage and compute completely decoupled, you're not able to actually do computing on real data. You're just able to do computing on some arbitrary data that you get from somewhere, which usually is going to be AWS, because right now you don't have the storage working on the same miners. Now, what we want is to actually take this disconnected world where compute and storage is, and we want to connect it to each other, and we do that by running multiple workloads on the same machines and allowing them to get exposure to the data that is stored on those machines. And the main way of doing that is by having common infrastructure that is shared between storage and compute. So that means that we have miners that are focused on storage, which is Filecoin, but it is also IPFS, because we want some data to be readily available. On the other hand, the compute infrastructure is also important. So we want to have the ability to run workloads like Lightyear, Ali, or Fluent. But those workloads should be run on common infrastructure so that all of those computing nodes can actually get the same data. And with that, we are building the interoperability that you see by unit. So on one side, we have computing. On the other side, we have storage. And what we want to make sure is that those are decoupled, because those should be run by different personas. So if I'm doing storage mining, that is completely different from doing computing mining. Because storage mining is very important to be redundant, it's very important to be in a data center, it's very important to be backed by USBs. It's very important to have a bunch of redundancy, because at the end of the day, some data is at stake, and you don't ever want to lose data. On the other hand, compute miners should only be cheap, because compute miners should have a lot of energy, a lot of GPUs, and should be able to compute a lot of information. But they should still have some exposure to some data, because the computation that they do is going to be on that data. But what we want to make sure is that the storage part is tightly connected to the compute part, because whenever the computational job happens, it needs to happen on real data. And then it needs to be returned back to the storage providers. Now, I want to spend a minute talking about why I think we are in a particularly good time in history to be working on these problems, and why I think in the next year, 2 years, we're going to see an explosion in computing. Because we are getting to something very similar to what we saw in the DeFi field, which was DeFi summer. What happened in DeFi summer is that when COVID happened, a lot of printing started happening as well, and with that a lot of inflation was happening, and at the same time interest rates were low. So what happened is that a lot of people had to figure out ways of actually moving the liquidity they had to somewhere else. And what happened is that we had DeFi, which was pretty small back then. It was like $500 million being locked in DeFi back then. And after the DeFi summer, we saw an explosion to 20 billion. When that happened, it put a lot of attention in the DeFi space, which means that a lot of VCs started considering startups that were previously non-VC fundable, and a lot of innovation started happening in this space. Right now, we have a time where you're going to see a lot of influx of computational resources being funneled into something, which is right now not completely awesome because it still needs to come. But what we're trying to do is build a technology stack that is going to allow us to coordinate all the resources that are going to be available in the coming 6 months to 2 years. And the reason for that is that if you look at what's happening with GPUs today, the price is 3 times less than what it used to be 6 months ago. The crypto crash made most of proof of work mining non-profitable, and the emergence of Ethereum 2.0 is going to dump another 6 billion of compute resources to the market, which needs to be somehow coordinated, and right now there is nothing to coordinate that. On top of all of that, we had a lot of supply coming from CPUs and GPUs not being shipped to particular regions where those regions were sanctioned. There is still a lot of hardware being exported from China because there is a lot of supply of hardware that was still there from the days that the mining was legal in China. And on top of all of that, we have NVIDIA that still has like 200 million inventory that needs to actually before the end of the year. And when we get to the end of the year, we are also going to see a new generation of GPUs that are going to be probably 2 to 3 times faster. So we are going to see a lot of computing resources being coordinated that are going to be dumped to the market. And someone will need to definitely coordinate that, which is what we are trying to do with the stack that we're doing. Now, if you compare those numbers with DeFi summer, we are relatively close. Actually, we are even better off than what we were with the DeFi. So the issue now is that we are not anymore trying to coordinate bits of information which are related to how much money I have on a particular day. Rather, we are trying to coordinate storage, computing, networking, because all of those are very hard computer science problems that need to be solved. So it might not be as fast as DeFi summer, but we have everything we need to actually figure that out. But still, we have networks that are not coordinated, that are separate, that need to be connected, and that's what we are trying to do. Now, on the same at the same time, what we're seeing is that still miners are not able to run computing workloads because computing is much harder than just running the node. Because you're not just following blocks and doing a bit of logic, you're actually waiting for a job that you will execute and return the results back. So you need to know where to get data from. You need to know where to push data back to. Then you need to know what you need to execute. You need to make sure that you have all the drivers installed. You need to make sure that you're actually using all the libraries that are necessary for that work. So it's a pretty hard problem. Now, what we want to do is just act as that infrastructure layer that is allowing other people to build on top. So at the end of the day, for the miner, what's going to happen is they are going to run some software that will allow them to run multiple computing networks and see like how much reward they made in the past 24 hours, see how many rewards they made in the past month, know how many tokens they bought in all the different currencies, and how to actually convert those to the currency that they want. So maybe as a miner, I want to belong on particular networks. For example, I think that library is going to go up. I just so that all of my library is going to be capped in my treasury. But at the same time, I might want to like short some other network and just sell as soon as I get reward from that network. So how it works is that, again, on one side we have the storage providers, and you can see the storage providers on the bottom, and on top you have the computing providers. So those are very different personas, and you can imagine the computing providers being more like proof of work miners, like Ethereum miners, and storage providers being more data center oriented enterprise storage. But at the same time, you also need some resources, because in order to mine Web3, you need to have some tokens that you're going to deploy and be part of the network. In the case of Filecoin, that is built, and that is used as collateral for the storage. But in the case of the other computing networks, that is, for example, Lightyear, that you need to validate in order for your miner to actually get workloads. We're trying to abstract all of that away for the miner, so that the miner can just focus on providing infrastructure and running infrastructure efficiently, and everything else should be abstracted by a protocol that coordinates all of these networks. And most importantly, we want to work very closely with the computing networks so that the final user, which in this case is going to be the developer, similarly to how the Firebase developer is in the Web2 realm, to actually have everything he needs to actually be able to deploy his workloads on those networks through the miners running those networks. Of course, in the case of storage, on one side we have the data, but as probably most of you know, you can't just store data on Filecoin. So you need to actually compute over that data. That workload in the Filecoin ecosystem is called sealing. And when you have sealed that sector, you need to put down some collateral, and then you can only store it on the storage side. But this is different from how the default way of Filecoin mining works, where you are doing everything as a miner. But since we don't believe that compute and storage should be mixed, and that each of the personas should be focused on one, we have decoupled this, and we're already using our network of compute miners to actually do the sealing, onboard the data, and send the data back to the Filecoin network, which in a way is like the perfect compute use case that you can have. And it is also helping us onboard massive amounts of data to the Filecoin network, which is helping out the entire ecosystem. A very important role in this ecosystem is also the token holder, which is basically staking in our protocol and getting rewards that are being split between the compute provider, the storage provider, and the token holder. So at the end of the day, like, this is going to be a protocol that allows everyone to be happy by actually having the coordination between the entities. So the compute provider is going to get paid to do the computing, but because the storage provider then can only focus on storage, which is a very simple activity at the end of the day, which is like adding contracts full of racks on Hyper that has some redundancy. And you can keep doing that for a while without having to worry about your sealing pipeline, how much computing you need, or where do you find the data, or where do you find the data gap, and so on. And at the end of the day, all of that happens with the pure protocol, where you just run some software and the data is getting to your storage. Right now we support only Filecoin, but we're going to be supporting IPFS as well. We're working with IPFS networks that are trying to build the incentive layer for IPFS that includes Filecoin Saturn and some other smaller teams that are right now working on that. While on the computing side, it is a bit more complicated, so I'm trying to simplify it here. It's not really like this, and there is a lot of complexity that is abstracted away because we need to keep it simple on this slide. But in the case of Filecoin, it's basically you do a computing workload, which in this case is being sent by a storage provider, and you seal that data and you just store it back on Filecoin. But in the case of some other computing workload, what you're doing is you're pulling data from IPFS and Filecoin, and in that way you're making storage providers earn more by allowing them to actually be the source of the data. And then you are doing the computing, and then you are again sealing the data and returning it back to the Filecoin network. Now, if you wanted to do this just on Filecoin, it would be super difficult for you, because you would need to have a bunch of logic running on the storage provider. And you would need to understand also like the networking between that storage provider and whoever else is doing the computing. And right now, storage providers are just focused on storage, and they are doing that pretty well, and we think that they should double down. If you want early access for the computing network, we are currently in a trusted network environment. So we have a network of miners that we trust, that we are working with. We are going to be launching publicly probably in 3 weeks from now. The regions where we are starting is Europe. We are very interested in Korea because that Korea can actually be a very big market because it has everything that China has, but at the same time, it's not as regulated as China. And of course, the US. For the storage side, you should go to this link, which is a landing page to Fillmine, and you should just apply to get access. We want to make sure that the storage providers that you're working with are very reputable, because what we are doing is we are giving them a lot of liquidity that is being staked in more reputable, and we need to make sure that those storage providers are going to be there no matter what, and that the collateral is not going to be lost. We have onboarded more of the petabytes of data. We have already 12 million units staked in our protocol, and we are supporting 3 computing networks. And we're working also on a 4th computing network that would be running parallel to the other workloads. Also, something very important that I mentioned that I did not cover in the previous slides is the fact that when you're running multiple computing networks, you're able to earn many more rewards, and all of that complexity is being abstracted away for you as a mine. Because you should not be actually orchestrating your workloads on top of your machines. You should just be providing security. Someone else should figure out what are the workloads that you can actually run in one particular moment on your machines based on what data you have, what kind of computing resources the networks require, what kind of hardware acceleration you have on your component, and how fast and how close you are to a particular task. Yeah, next, we are also hiring and would love to have a team in Korea. So like, if you're someone that runs engineering teams before, we are very interested to talk to you. And thank you for your time.
네, 감사합니다. 이제 기존의 HTTPS와는 완전히 다른 IPFS 기술을 상세히 설명해 주셨습니다. 한국 지역의 한국 시장에 많은 관심 부탁드립니다. 이제 다음으로 문랜딩 프로젝트에 대해서 발표해 주실 안젤로를 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 열띤 박수로 맞이해 주시죠.
Time to talk about Project Moonlighting. Perfect, thank you. Let's get started. This is me and Caro, so we developed the project together. She can't be here today, but I'll do the presentation for y'all. So I'm Angelo Shelley. I'm a solutions architect at Protocolabs, working on the storage provider enablement side. So I'm here to help you succeed and get as far ahead as you can get. I started 2 years ago or something like that on my own storage provider system in Belgium, which I'm originally from, which I will talk to you about later today in a couple of hours. Started at Protocolabs around 5-6 weeks ago. And this is my first project that I'm going to present to you. So this is the agenda we're going to talk about. So moon landing. Very important to make sure that we store all the public data sets available out there, and we're making it a program so you SPs can help us store all that valuable data so we can keep it on the internet or on the network as long as possible. And we made it very interesting for you, which we're going to talk about right now. So before I can get into the details of moon landing, let me first talk about Slingshot. I don't know if anybody here heard about Slingshot before, but this is version 3 already. Version 1 and 2 has been out there. I don't know if anybody participate in version 1 or 2 of Slingshot. I don't know if there's anybody. Okay, then I won't mention it too long. Okay, so Slingshot its main mission is to make sure that we keep all that valuable data, all those public data sets are available on all the time, available for everybody. The program is all about it. So if you want to have a look at it, go to the new website. I will share these slides later with everybody because it has a lot of links in it. So we'll highlight some stuff, but to make sure that everybody can still get it later. Okay, so Slingshot v3, right now where we're at, around 50 petabytes already onboarded, so we're at a good start already. V3 just started a week and a half ago, so it's all brand new and ready to go. The main thing, very important for you all as SPs, is that all the data that you're storing at this point is all Fil Plus, so all verified deals. I'll explain what Fil Plus is in a little bit, so you're all on board with that too. Also, again, go to the website where you can look at all the data sets that are available that you can go store. Now, Fil Plus, real quickly. Everybody knows what Fil Plus is? Thank you. Okay, Fil Plus, quickly. It's divided up in a few components. We have the notary part. We'll be doing a small set of KYC just to make sure that we're dealing with like real clients with valid data, right? On the Slingshot side, we'll be the clients who is already validated. At that point, when you're validated and you have valid data that you're bringing to the network, you'll get, as a client, you'll get a data cap assigned. Could be any amount of data depending on what data set it is. After that, you will be making deals with storage providers based on that data set and how much you want to replicate that over the network. At that point, you'll be burning through your data cap, but the benefit of it is that the SP you're working with will be able to store that data for you, and it will be able to 10x its power. So it's very incentivized for the storage provider at that side. So if you can work with clients that you know, you can ingest that data, you can work with other SPs, and you can grow together. At that point, making more block rewards at that point for that verified data that you just produced. Going further in Slingshot, two very important things to remember. There is the data preparer side, and there is the storage provider side. The data preparer side is very important to me myself. I'll get into a little bit of detail further. Is like you'll be actually preparing the data itself. You'll be putting it available for the storage providers to download. It's a lot of work to make all these car files put together, presenting them to the world, that storage providers can download them. So we made an incentive model around it. So as a data preparer, you'll be able to make several thousands of Fil doing so. Details are up in a second. The storage provider side it's a little bit like you're working together with all the data preparers, kind of like when the data sets are made available, you need storage providers to store them for you, because you need several replicas to do so. So you'll have to work together, you need to find the SPs and the DPs to work together, and during the project will help you establish those connections. So very important to keep that in mind. Next, what I was talking about, here are some of the incentives. I just put it out here. You know, you could go up to a max of 1,000 Fil per petabyte per data set, and it's all about onboarding those replicas, which can add up pretty quickly. Very important here is the matchmaking part, which we will help you during the moon landing project to get you started. More details on that in a little bit. I put this slide in here as a reference slide for you to get started. So this is the link to the website with some requirements. There are several technical requirements to get you started. So there is the deal engine part, there's the data preparer part. I already mentioned Project Singularity down there, which you will use as a data preparer to get that data ready to create those car files for the storage provider to start sealing all that data. Now, very important here is that you need to build that solution yourself at this point, right? All the data is available, all the code is like open source, you can go straight to it, you can play with it, you can use it, but it's still like part of it is a manual process. Also during moon landing we'll be providing you with technical content so you don't need to figure that all out by yourself, so that's coming soon. Switching to Evergreen. I know I'm putting out a lot of buzzwords here right now, but it will make like clear a little bit. Evergreen right now is a continuation of Slingshot. So Slingshot is storing all those public data sets, and as you know, they will expire when the deal of the storage deal expires in like a maximum amount of 540 days right now. Evergreen makes sure that that data stays on the network. So what it does is it has a deal engine which you can use. For instance, I'll get into that here a little bit more. Is that looking at the network, you'll probably be storing like a lot of public data sets already on your own miner. You will have a lot of public data sets already on other miners in the network. Evergreen is built that way that you can first pool your own data that you already provided to the network, reseal it again, and provide it back to the network. So you're incentivized by resealing your own data at that point. And then when you're ready with that, you can like look into the network and just pull more data in and like store those extra copies and make extra block rewards on top of that because of that fill plus 10x reward factor. And to keep in mind, because you're sealing all the time within Slingshot, which version 1 and version 2 has been going on for a year and a half now, that means that deals will expire all the time. That means that the Slingshot program will be there for a very long time. That means that if you need public data sets and you want to start storing data right away, and you want to have those extra block rewards because you get that 10x power in the network, Slingshot and Evergreen is a really great program to get started right away. And even if you want to grow your current system right from the bat, you can like go here, go do that. Now, a few requirements here. See if I mentioned all of them. You can store them up to 10 times, which the network, which the tool will take care of. And of course, like several replicas cannot be in this same data center, but that's something that you need to keep in mind. One of the things, I'll talk to you a little bit. Yes, okay, so Evergreen, same thing as Slingshot. There is like data that qualifies, which I just said, that's the public data sets that are expiring. Participants, any SP can participate. So any of you that has a storage system out there, go do this. I do it myself, like the Slingshot and the Evergreen is great. Like it's very easy to do once you have set it up as a community system. There is like again, in the program details, you can go in, you'll see that there is a tool available. You need to register, you need to like use an authenticator tool to get that going, but all of that is explained in the program details. Also, when you sign up for the moon landing project, we will provide you with technical deep dive on how you have to do that. There you go. Okay, moon landing. What we're going to do, and when we're here in South Korea, we can like work together as a community on that. It's like if you sign up for moon landing, we will help you connect because that's the hard part, right? It's like finding other people that you can work with to store those replicas for you during Slingshot. So we're gonna put you together, make you work together, and we will help you like achieve that. Right. This is a slide that I just wanted to add as a reference. This is something that will be coming up. It could be very interesting for you all. Is that it's called the plus enterprise program. I mentioned Phil Plus before, which you will get like a 10x multiplier on the storage power if you're storing verified data at that point. The main takeaway here is these two ones here. It's like we're going to work a lot better on getting you that data kept real quick. Like there's more automation on that, so you don't have to wait too long to get you started. On the other parts, because you're already putting a lot of effort in storing that data and doing all that business development with clients, we want to help you, of course, incentivize that to make it worth your while. And this is one a good one. It's like you don't need to store all the copies with other SPs, which you have to do during Phil Plus, but with the enterprise program, you can store an extra copy at your own storage solution, which means that if you're storing, for instance, 10 terabytes of storage at that point, which is 100 terabytes of storage in power in the network, which you will gain block rewards on top of those 100 terabytes. But with the Phil E program, what that does is you can store another 10 terabytes, which will grant you 200 in total, right? Because it's 10, 10, 20 times 10, 200 in total, which you don't have when you're just going through Phil Plus. Okay. This is it for the moon landing. Very important. Sign up here. Very simple form. Just go to it. We'll invite you to the moon landing website and to the Slack channel, moon landing Slack channel, where we'll give you technical content. We'll invite you for socials, workshops to get you started in Slingshot and Evergreen to work on that together. If you have any questions, you can put it in that Slack channel, or of course reach out to me directly or to Carol, anything you want to make that go. Some extra useful links that I've put out here. These ones are very important. After you get signed up, we'll invite you to all these channels. The Slingshot ones are already publicly available, so definitely check those out. The Evergreen and Slingshot link, where you can sign up to get started. Phil Plus, if you want to learn more about that, potentially become a notary or get DataCap as a client. And then the moon landing page. Again, me and Caro are always available. We're always on Slack, so always ready to help you out with any questions that you have on any of these subjects, whether it is Evergreen, whether it is Slingshot, whether it is Phil Plus, Phil E, the moon landing project that ties it all together. Always happy to discuss all these things in detail with you. So on that, I don't know if anybody has any specific questions. No? I'll be sharing these slides somehow, make them available to you, so you have that as reference model. So thank you for the time. Thank you.
네, 사실상 확장 가능성이 무한한 기술 그리고 물랜딩 프로젝트에 대해서 자세히 설명해 주셨습니다.
Popular node implementation called Lotus. Before I go into there, I would like to talk about something that's happening right now. The whole world is witnessing an amazing movement. Blockchain technology really allows a lot of computers to talk to each other and work as if they're one infinite machine. That is because they can find each other, they can validate each other's work, and when things happen, they can achieve certain decisions that are prone to attacks and confusion. The core to running such a thing is a protocol, is a network protocol. How it gets implemented is actually the node software that runs on all the computers that participate in the network. Lotus is the top implementation right now in PowerPoint network, and that's my talk. It is an entry talk to developers who are looking to develop on Lotus. I know some of you storage providers might have done a lot more advanced integration with Lotus but my talk is designed for entry level. I'll go through Filecoin implementation. What is Lotus? Introduction of it. Lotus architecture, development tools. I'll demo a little bit of code. I'll do a little bit of coding, not too much. And what's coming up for Lotus, so the roadmap of it, and a few recent updates. In a Web3 world, there can be many node implementations. Take Ethereum Foundation, for example. Ethereum gas node is implemented, 70% of the clients actually use a gas node. But there are several implementations built by either Ethereum or their ecosystem community. And Filecoin is like that as well. These are the three current implementations of Filecoin. There is Lotus, which is maintained by Protocolabs, Venus, currently maintained by IPFS, and Forest, built by ChainSafe. We're using these implementations. There are a few users of it. Some people run it because they want to participate in Filecoin network. It implements the protocol and implements the standard and makes sure communication is there. The node operators would like to participate and keep their information in sync on the chain. There are storage providers who are looking to seal sectors and also produce blocks for consensus. There are developers who are trying to integrate to the storage market, make tooling of it, and also they can develop integration with the Lotus wallet. There is an integrated wallet for it. So I'll talk about Lotus first. Lotus is implemented in Go. It is the reference implementation of Filecoin protocol. So if any other protocol would like to build a new implementation, they will reference what Lotus has done. It is also the most popular one in the network. You can find a website to follow this project, and you can also find the resource to look at their source code, and you can follow the recent announcement on our public Slack channel at Lotus announcement. Venus implementation. It is formerly known as Go Venus, and then it is handed over to IPFS, which is an ecosystem community partner of ours, like many. It is a different architecture, but it also follows the highly modular design. It has improved TPS and then batch messaging feature. You can find it, more information about it at venus.filecoin.io, and GitHub link is here. And they also have a Still Venus Slack channel in the public Slack. The last one is Forest. Forest is maintained by ChainSafe. ChainSafe has built a full Rust implementation for Filecoin. You can follow them at chainsafe.github.io/forest. There's also a Phil Forest dev channel in the public sector. What are the differences? This table will give you a very clear idea on what kind of features are there. So Lotus has a full implementation. All the features are available. Venus also has full implementation, but some of the modules, they refer to the Lotus modules. They're actually a fork of the source code from it. And there's a few things missing in Forest, but it's actually being developed right now. So what does Lotus do? Lotus is able to find, connect to other Lotus nodes, sync blockchain, provide an internal wallet function, and it also provides API and CLIs for developers to interact with and other software products. It stores retrieve files. So if you want to store files on the local node and start to make deals, you can use Lotus. And it helps with storage providing, so mining in a sense. So the Lotus architecture started very monolithic. What happens is a lot of developers find it restricting and start to bypass the features. So based on developers' feedback later on, the architecture is changed to a more modular design. It uses a hub and spoke, which makes it more modular, so developers can swap out things or interact with it freely. But it also maintains a structure that you have one entry point for developers to talk to all the modules underneath. There are a few important modules. One is the single entry point JSON RPC interface and the CLI interface. The Filecoin implementation also has a worker layer, a marketplace for storage, trading storage, and there's also a miner module. So I'll talk about Lotus CLI. So Lotus CLI actually gives the developer God mode access to Lotus implementation. It has a lot of command control, and you have admin privilege to interact with it. So there's a few, the graph that you're seeing here is actually process of creating wallets and syncing block, getting block information from it. So for people who are running automated systems, this is a good way, an easy way to integrate. My talk today is mainly about integrating by the JSON RPC API that Lotus has provided. Not only that, but we have tried to make developers' life easier by making a few libraries that integrate with it. So developers doesn't have to construct their API messages. So there are 3, Filecoin.js, which is maintained by the Filecoin team. There is Filecoin.js signer, which is done by BitLab, and Filecoin signing tools by Zondex. There are a few functions. There are a lot of methods available in SDKs, but it can be grouped to reading information, writing information, and signing the messages, and also doing administration tasks in there. So now I'd like to show you a demonstration of how Lotus API and the SDK can be used in real life. So I'll switch to my computer right now. So you can see this is a simple React application that I have developed. It uses React and Material UI. You can see that to talk to the Filecoin, not Lotus node, I've used the Filecoin.js dependency here. By the way, I have a full testnet Lotus instance running right here. On the left, you're seeing the Lotus message blocks being synced, and on the right, you can see the command line that I can use to talk to Lotus. So if I want to get Lotus block information, I can do Lotus sync status, and you'll find out the latest information about what the worker is working on and information about the block. If I want to talk to the wallet, these are all my testnet addresses and how much data I have in here. I haven't done anything, so it's all 0 right there. I'm very full on testnet. So there are other things you can do. You can see that it provides a single entry point for developers or DevOps engineers to actually operate the node. What I have done here in a React application is I wrapped around and created an interface for the wallet. So if I start the program right here, and start run, the program will start to run, and you will see the interface of it. So it is actually talking to the Lotus node that is running on the left here, using similar methods to the CLI, but via the JSON API. And it has retrieved the wallet information on the right. So these are the dependencies. I have generated the API token to talk to the Lotus, so it's secure. And then in the main application, I have imported the library, the different modules that I needed to use. And then the actual methods to get wallet client. So I'm doing a loop to get them. And the methods for updating wallet, so it's always in sync. And the methods for deleting the wallet. So if I go ahead here, this is what the interface looks like. Every time I refresh it, it will send the API to grab the latest information. I can go ahead and delete it probably should have done some optimization here, because at the time I refreshed, it actually changed the order, basically. So how do developers develop on that? So first you include the Filecoin dependency, and over here you can start a connector to talk to the Lotus endpoint, and then you can start a Lotus wallet client that talks to the Lotus wallet module. Remember, in the architecture we have a few components and one single entry point. So this is following that structure. And then in my actual method to get the wallet, I can do a Lotus HTTP get addresses. Get address, default address will figure out my default address. So I can mark it on the list which one is used by default. The delete method is also a white line. After all of those things have been established, it's a delete address and a passing the address there. So I've made comment up a part of the code which is related to creating a wallet. So if I uncomment this part, this is the method that I'm going to use to create a new address. And this part will make sure that the front end has a button. So after I save and build, you should see a create wallet button here. And if I create it, I can create it wallet. There's a lot more can be done through the SDK and also JSON RPC. This is the simplest demonstration of what it can do. So the documentation of this is on Lotus documentation. So you can find all the API endpoint that it supports. And also Lotus CLI, all of the methods is documented here. You can also go to the CLI help to get more information. So I'll go back to the presentation now. The demo is finished. So what's coming for Lotus? The recent updates is version 1.15.2. This update separated the winning post and video post workers, so they can be in separate workers. The version 1.16 has been released, and that has compatibility with the upcoming FDM, but it is not yet programmable. The programmability will come in September and October. This is on the Lotus roadmap. You can find out more from the, let me go back. You can find out more from FDM roadmap or Lotus roadmap. And one of the last updates was one of the upcoming updates is version 17, and it addresses some slow memory issues that are discovered recently. So it is updating constantly, and you can follow them at GitHub. So I'll close by saying this: data is just beginning for Filecoin network. What I call Filecoin has what I call a data gravity. So if we keep doing this, the data will, the other networks will be attracted to Filecoin network because it is actually very hard to move verified data or high quality data around. The network bandwidth is very slow, and people actually move physical hardware for large storage. So Filecoin focuses on creating the network capacity and then make sure the quality data is stored. So other networks will probably incline to work with us more because we have such valuable data. I'll go back a little bit. For example, Netflix actually sends very popular TV shows or video content physically to different data centers. So it's closer to the user. Instead of getting it, waiting for 3 seconds for the video to load, if it is physically distributed around the world, it's faster to load. So consumers these days need a really fast loading time, otherwise they can go to another platform that loads it just 1 second faster. There are a few exciting projects that's coming for Filecoin network. One of them is Filecoin, which puts computing on Filecoin storage nodes. So it is expensive to move data around, so Filecoin has the opportunity to actually compute right where the startup is stored. And hopefully in the future, incentive model can be tied to this. So so the storage provider can also be compute provider. There's FEM that I mentioned earlier. Two other speakers earlier have mentioned that as well. It's very exciting because we're putting logic on Filecoin network and allow Filecoin to be like Ethereum to have smart contract online. And also enable layer 2, so much faster and also for specific applications of different industries. There is retrieval market. Filecoin is good at storing things. Getting things out is a bit tricky and currently not fast enough for consumer-based application. We're trying to build a decentralized technology to do content delivery, CDN in another word. And this project is called retrieval.market. And if you'd like to follow that, it's retrieval.market website. There are a few other projects that other speakers have done, but I won't go through in detail. Field Plus program is a program that focuses on improving the data quality and attracting verified data to the Filecoin network. It has a notary system to verify data from different industries and different areas and onboard them to our storage providers. The reward is higher, or the chances of getting rewards is higher, I should say, for verified deals in the network. There is Filecoin Green. We're trying to be a carbon neutral or carbon negative chain in the future. And we would like to use develop technology so other blockchain network can reuse or start a standard for it. So Filecoin Green is a team that is working on that. There's also Slingshot Evergreen. So Slingshot was a competition to onboard data at the beginning. It ran for, I think, 2 competitions, successfully onboard heaps of data to the Filecoin network. This is going on. This program intends to renew those deals. So on Filecoin, the deals expire every 6 months or 18 months currently. That will be changed in the future when FEM comes, so people can develop interesting charging methods for it. So that's all. That's my talk. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 실제로 오늘 자리를 위해서 이렇게 코딩 자료까지 준비해 주셔서 더 이해하기 쉬웠던 것 같습니다. 다음으로는 부스트에 관해 말씀해 주실 브렌다를 무대 위로 모시겠습니다. 힘찬 한호와 함께 맞이해 주시죠.
여러분 안녕하세요. 내 이름은 브렌다입니다. 반갑습니다. That's all of the Korean that I know, so now I will switch to talking in English. But it's very nice to see all of you here. My name is Brenda, and I'm a product manager at Protocolabs, and I mostly focus on working on improving the Filecoin markets protocol. So I'm here to talk to you today about Boost, what it is, what are the things that we're working on, and yeah, really looking forward to hearing how you guys have been using Boost or not, and just getting feedback from everyone today. So first of all, I wanted to really talk about what exactly is in Boost and how has it improved markets. So when we talk about Filecoin markets, it basically is referring to the storage and retrieval deal-making process on the Filecoin network. So as a storage provider, you do a couple of things. When you start, maybe you're contributing capacity to the network, or you're sealing committed capacity sectors. And maybe after you kind of get started and understand how that process works, then you start working with individual clients or customers to onboard their data onto the network. And that process, kind of the second piece of the pie, is really kind of what Filecoin markets is all about. So we have talked to a couple of storage providers last fall, learning about kind of what are all of the pain points that everyone has kind of experienced while doing storage deals. and retrieval deals. And so as a result, we learned a number of things that were challenging for storage providers, and so took a lot of that feedback from the ecosystem, especially the storage provider ecosystem, such as you guys, and built Boost, which is basically the new and improved Filecoin market. So one of the biggest things that we have included in Boost is better visibility into your system. So one of the things that we heard from a lot of the storage providers who are making storage deals is that it's hard to actually see and understand what the current state of is for all of your storage deals, especially when you're managing very large operations or you're onboarding a lot of data. So if you're onboarding terabyte scale or petabyte scale data, that's a lot of storage deals that you're kind of trying to manage and understand and kind of figure out like all of like whatever it is that you're managing, right? So here's an example of what you get with Boost. It's this really great UI where you can kind of see a list of all of your storage deals, and this is like a fake example, obviously, but you can see a list of all your storage deals, kind of, when did it start, kind of what's the deal ID, information about the size of the deal, what the client ID is, what the state is of the storage deal, so you can see if it's in data transfer state, if it's ready to publish, or if it's a live deal on Filecoin. So that's kind of the storage deal piece, and you can actually drill down into each line and see more information about your deal. On the left-hand side, you kind of see also just information about your overall system and your overall setup. So you kind of see all your, kind of an overall summary of all.
Years just looking for the document and the check and testing by ourselves. But today, so many issues and some presentation is almost similar like this, our goals and our idea and target. So it is very happy and exciting. But frankly speaking, this is a business. So every business is related with some budget issue and some loss issue. I already discussed about this issue in this morning. We are we have some update the Lotus and the network over 10 times during 2 years. But every update time, we encounter the big trouble and make some big issues by some update bug and the errors. Then we just encounter some immediately burn our deposit Filecoins, and we lost the big money. But we cannot claim about that kind of our damages for our customers and our chairmen. So I think this issue is already maybe in the Protocol-Labs already known very well and understand about our situation. So I really wish to proceed into this project together and make some big success, but some big damage we need to take care with each other. This is my concern.
Yes, we are right now just about to hire somebody very senior to really think about how we can be there for the community and also making sure these issues are raised by everyone. Right now, as you know, our ecosystem is very technical. There's a lot of people really heads down focused on building the product. Us as a foundation, we've really tried to make sure that we can staff up to get more people to be listeners and to hear the feedback from communities like this. And also so we can think about new programs to help support situations like yourself, right? How we can think about things that are not one specific but community-wide, where we can prevent those things from happening in the first place. So there's, we know that the landscape for any business is challenging. We also want to make sure one of our goals is that everyone who comes into the storage provider community has a fair and equal way of participating. It's very easy for
players that are larger to take up a lot of the business, and we are here to make sure that it feels fair to everyone, right? If you're a small company trying to make it, we want to give you guys that opportunity. If you're a medium-sized one, we want to give you programs to further grow. If you're a large storage provider, we want to make sure we can connect you and help you be there to get huge deals that your infrastructure allows, right? So that's a lot of what we're thinking, and we're about to bring on somebody quite senior to be able to lead that for our community and to be able to help things like yourself. But we know it's not easy, and we know that it's hard, we can't be everywhere. And that's why also the support of this community for each other is so important as well. For each other to help give the right information, to have the right values in trust, and making sure that bad players in the community don't stay in the community, right? And so speaking up and all of that. And so we want to make sure that we can do what we can, and we are listening. I just want to make clear we have been listening to all of you guys, and we want to be here, and that's why we're all here today, to be here.
Yeah, and I would say that we have a bunch of tooling that is being built, and I suppose that happened like maybe 6 months ago, but now actually upgrading is much more. There are many things that are now building tools that help you upgrade to the next network without you risking anything.
Yeah. And we also hired more community engineers. I assume you're running Lotus. Is that correct? Are you running Lotus? Yeah.
Yes, we operated Lotus.
Yeah. So I would recommend there's a team now in Lotus that's created a dedicated website, lotus.falcon.io, where you can track what the team is fixing and what the team is working on. And the Lotus community engineers that we hired in the last 2 quarters have been tasked to help not only communicate, but also collect better the issues and feedback from the community. So there's a lot of work in the background that's happening